everybody. I know pretty much nobody's going to watch this because, it's easier to hate than it is to understand. But I just thought I'd put a video on, kind of in reference with the video I put on last night. But I'll explain a little about myself. We'll start. I know everybody's, the biggest majority of society is I think it's a lack of understanding on what a person like myself, how I ended up in this boat. For me, and I know I'm speaking for a whole lot of the trans community, but for me it was first grade, 6 years old was when I first started, and you got to realize back then that was 1982. There was no social media. There was nothing to speak of on television. There was nobody ever talked about trans or feminine people. So, for me in first grade, we had this girl move in from another state. She had a nice style to her. I was just in love with her style, and she wore the cute outfits and stuff, and I just couldn't, at 6 years old, I couldn't understand why, I had to keep my hair short. I had to, wear boy clothes, and I had to be a boy, and I could not figure out why I was the way I was. And to me, I was scared. I didn't want to be that person. But in my head, I thought, well, I hope it's just a phase. And if it's just a phase, then, all this will go away once I hit, I was thinking once I hit puberty and stuff. But see, I was the youngest of four boys. So, and my dad, I had a military dad. So, back, I shut my mouth. You do not talk about stuff like that, especially back then. And I was just hoping it was a phase. And then, puberty come along and everything got worse. I just, and that would have been in the late 80s. That would have been the heavy metal or the hair metal, and, the cute mini skirts and the colored tights and the big hair. And I just went to bed crying at nights because I wanted to be that. I wanted to be one of them girls. And I still couldn't figure out why. And at about 15, I had enough. And I did think of harming myself and kind of attempted to. But, I'm a Christian. I'm not into that kind of deal, so, but, I moved on, and the one thing that I always wanted to do was, that I had to do was make my dad proud. That's all I ever wanted to do was make my dad proud. So, I just never said a word to him, and and when I finally told my dad that I was, that I had got my girlfriend, later on wife, now ex-wife, pregnant, his exact words, well, good, at least I know my kids aren't gay, and that hurt because, I knew I was gay. I knew I was, it wasn't, I don't know how to word it. It wasn't like I couldn't hang out with guys without being in love with them or anything, but I knew, that I had an attraction to certain guys and stuff like that, but I had to make my dad proud. And so I went on in life miserable, very miserable. I love my kids. I loved my ex-wife for a, point in time till that started going downhill, but that's a whole nother story. But, life just went on, and I did what I could do. And I kind of tried to at one point I thought this phase is over. I can leave this behind me. I'm done with it. And then me and the wife started having issues, and she moved with her parents, and I stayed in the apartment where we lived. And that's when I very first had where I could spend, time dressed up and put the makeup on and stuff. And I fell in love with myself. I mean, I got to where I loved life a little bit, but things happened. We had a daughter, so I just said, what, we're gonna make up. We're gonna make it work, and back to making my dad proud. And I mean, it just went back and forth, but by the time my youngest daughter graduated, my feminine urge or estrogen spike or whatever you want to call it hit top, and I had no choice. And at that time, my wife and I had decided that we were going to separate. She knew about me, and I dressed in front of her and everything, but we decided that we were going to separate. I mean, from that point on, I mean, I don't live my whole life as a woman, though I want to, but with society being so hateful, it's pretty much impossible. I mean, that's just, it's not going to happen, but I started when Google first come out. I started with the research on what makes a person like me how I am, and the deeper I dug into it, everything comes back to the hypothalamus in your brain, and a little part of it is called the bed nucleus of the stira terminalis or something like that. And in women, it is really small, and in men, it is really big. The bigger it is, the more masculine you are. The smaller it is, the more feminine. And what I've kind of come up with the conclusion, and I mean, it's not a positive thing, but it at least gives me a little bit of an idea or a hope that that's the reason for how I am. But the research has showed that in a lot of trans or homosexual or feminine men, that the bed nucleus of the stira terminalis, or BNTS as I'd prefer to say it, is a lot smaller than it would be in a normal minded man. And the same for women. A lot of the research has showed that in a lot of women that are extremely manly, they have a bigger BTSN or BNTS, and that makes them have more testosterone in their system and such. Whether I mean, that to me, it's just a theory. It's a theory that helps me to think that there is a reason for where I am, and I'm a God-fearing Christian, and I don't feel that God made me with this messed up mind to sit in a nut house like everybody keeps saying. Oh, you belong in an insane asylum and all this. I'm a normalish person. I don't have any bad thoughts or anything, or any thoughts of hurting anybody, or anything in any way that's bad. I just am extremely a feminine person, or a feminine man, and like I say, there's just a whole lot of hate in this world, and I wish that part could go away, so a person like me could live happy. And I used to go out and do things and go shopping and stuff like that, and now I hardly leave the house when I'm dressed, because it's just hard, and I want to transition so bad, but I know society doesn't accept it. And as far as that goes, I guess I'm okay with where I am. I mean, like I said in my video last night, I hate the I'm used to it, but you get the dudes and the bros and all this stuff comments, and it is rough on the mind. I shouldn't have said that last night, that I don't care, because I do. It does hurt the mind, because I don't know why I am the way I am. If anybody has any better advice on the reason, let me know.